Thank you so much, Mr. President, and through you to the members. Mr. President, I know a lot of us probably saw the article in the Boston Globe this past week about circumstances pertaining to sexual harassment and the culture.
Senator, please come to order. The gentlelady from Essex, Ms. DiZoglio.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, and again through you to the members. As I was saying, I know that a lot of us saw the Boston Globe article talking about the experiences of staffers in this chamber, in this legislature, as it pertains to challenges with sexual harassment in particular. Now, that survey, from my understanding, according to that report, was conducted in 2019 and was meant to gauge what was actually going on in this building, in this chamber, as it pertains to those specific issues. And we have taken steps since then to address some of those challenges. But much more work needs to be done, Mr. President. Many of you know, and I've shared my story multiple times, but I will share it again for those of you who don't. As a younger staffer in the House of Representatives, many years ago, over 10 years ago at this point, I was sexually harassed in this building as a younger woman in my 20s. And the way that it was thought appropriate to deal with that harassment at that time was to require that I sign a taxpayer-funded non-disclosure agreement that prevented me from talking about literally anything that I'd seen, witnessed, or experienced behind the closed doors in this state house among some of the most powerful politicians in Massachusetts. That is the way it was thought appropriate to deal with that harassment back then. And I have to ask myself how much times have changed and if they have changed enough. And I have to say that reading that article last week was incredibly disheartening. Because I am in my 10th year of service right now, and I have been speaking about sexual harassment in this building and across our Commonwealth, especially in state government, and the ways in which we silence women, minorities of all kinds, our BIPOC community, our LGBTQIA+ community, our disabled community, or just folks who don't have a position of power to be able to talk about what they're experiencing in the workplace. And I've been talking about how we need to make systemic changes for years. And I've been so proud of this chamber's commitment to banning the use of these non-disclosure agreements across state government, and been incredibly humbled to have been a part of filing this legislation over and over again and watching it pass over and over again in this chamber. And I want to say thank you to my colleagues for making that happen. But friends, when I read that article last week, in all honesty, even after 10 years serving in an elected capacity here, it was really triggering to read that article and to read about staff still feeling as though they have not been seen and that they have not been heard, that we could do more and that we need to do more. And I hear them and I feel that and I carry that with me. Now, some may think, that passing this amendment today is going to demonstrate that, we have a commitment to making sure that we deal with sex harassment, and we have a commitment to making sure that we're not silencing workers about abuse in this building and beyond. And I think that passing this amendment today is definitely part of that, Mr. President. I do. As I continue to say in my thanks for always passing this amendment when I bring it up. But I just want to use this opportunity to talk about the fact that we, over the last several weeks and months and years, continue to hear our staff asking us to stand up and to speak out about how they feel working in this building year after year. They are looking for us to recognize their challenges more fully than we have been able to do. And every moment that we continue to wait on addressing some of these challenges fully is another day that our staff continues to feel demoralized, dismissed, ignored, or like they don't matter. And I know that that's not true. I know how much my colleagues in this chamber value their staff and everybody else's staff. But I think that we need to talk about this. I think that we need to have a lot more conversations on this than we have been. Because when I pick up in the Boston Globe last week an article that talks about how staff still feel, like the sexual harassment issues have not been addressed fully and that we need to do more, God. That should trigger all of us, not just those of us who have also experienced that type of harassment. I know that my colleagues in this chamber agree that we should not be silencing government workers about harassment, discrimination, or abuse of any kind. That's why I'm fully expecting that this amendment get adopted today. But I also want to challenge us to get together and to do some of the things that our staff have been asking us to do. We know the conversations about the union have been being talked about, which I'm supportive of. We know that we heard stories from those brave and amazing, courageous women who came forward and told their stories. And we should applaud those women for their bravery and for their courage, but not just applaud them. We should reward their bravery and their courage by taking action as soon as is humanly possible and demonstrate to those outside of this building, along with those inside of this building, that we are listening, that we care deeply, and that we are fully committed to protecting the rights of all workers in the Commonwealth, and that commitment starts right here in this chamber. Before we legislate what others should do in their workplaces, before we tell others what they should do to meet their DEI goals, before we tell others how to handle their employment issues, we need to start here, friends, and set the example to the Commonwealth of what a healthy workplace looks like. It's a very humbling responsibility to be in this seat right now, a place that I'm not going to be in for much longer. And I want to make sure that I'm using it to the fullest potential by talking about these things while I have a chance. Using this leadership position and the bully pulpit right here to talk about those that don't have this microphone and highlight what they keep telling us to highlight. It's my hope that we'll all do that. Because I know how much we care. I know how much we care. But we need to demonstrate that in actions. And those actions need to be taken a lot sooner than they have been taken. I have here just a piece of paper that was sent to me by a staffer. We did this report back in, I think, it was 2019, March of 2019, the climate survey. And the report was issued to all staff on December 30th of 2020 via email. It was said that there were that the extreme examples of harassment were rare in the reporting. It was also acknowledged that we still have work to do. So I guess my question is, if we still have work to do, what are we doing? What are we doing? Where are the results of that work if just last week our staff are stepping up and saying the things that they're saying about how they feel? There's been added mandatory anti-bias training for employees, which is great. A code of conduct was created with 5 bullet points. But where are the protections for our staff, the real protections? Where are the subsequent surveys that the initial survey recommend take place? Because it's my understanding that it was recommended that we do additional surveys to make sure that change was actually happening, but I haven't seen those yet. I know my office conducted a survey alongside of some of the staff on the general climate, and we remember the results of that survey. Where's the action? A lot of folks said they didn't believe some of the things that were said by some of the staff in that survey that my office conducted. But I think that we all believe the report that we read the other day in the Boston Globe. I know we all believe that. So if we all believe these survivors, then what are we doing to fix it? We need bold changes. Bold changes. And I'm asking my colleagues to consider this today as I simultaneously thank you again from the bottom of my heart for again standing with me and passing this amendment to ban the abuse of taxpayer-funded NDAs that silence victims of harassment, discrimination, and abuse across our state government. I challenge us to do more, and I thank you. Mr. President, I respectfully ask that this amendment be adopted.
Amendment, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted.